What if Nathan never died and Faison killed Cassius instead? I keep coming back to this one thing, and I swear, the more I think about it, the more it bugs me. Not in a bad way. In a soap opera, brain won't shut up kind of way. Because this whole Cassius-Nathan mess on General Hospital could be way bigger than just, oh, surprise, that man is not Nathan. No, no, no. That feels too easy. Too clean. And GH, when it wants to be messy, honey, it gets messy with both hands. So here is where my head is at. What if the man who died 7 years ago was not Nathan at all? What if that body, that tragedy, that whole goodbye that broke Maxie and broke the audience was actually Cassius? And what if Nathan, the real Nathan, has been alive all this time, locked away somewhere because Faison, being Faison, pulled the ugliest long con possible? I'm not saying this is confirmed. I'm not saying GH is absolutely going there. But I am saying it fits. It fits in that crazy, twisted, only Port Charles would do this to us kind of way. Because look at the setup. We now have Cassius in the picture. We have this idea that Faison had more secrets than anybody ever really understood. We have a returning face that looks like Nathan, moves like Nathan sometimes, but emotionally, something feels off. And I know people can say, well, he's pretending, or he studied Nathan, or he had access to records. Sure, fine. But that still doesn't explain the deeper feeling, at least for me, that GH might be playing with identity in a much darker way. I think the real story could be that Faison switched the twins long before anyone knew there was even a switch to catch. Maybe 10 years ago, maybe around the time Nathan's life started becoming inconvenient to Faison's larger plans, Faison realized something. Nathan was not controllable. Not fully. Nathan had a conscience. Nathan had Maxie. Nathan had a badge. Nathan had people. And people are dangerous when you're trying to run some creepy supervillain father project from the shadows. Cassius, though? Cassius could have been raised differently, trained differently, broken differently. I could see Faison looking at Cassius like a tool, not a son. Like, this one I can use. And maybe Cassius was supposed to step into Nathan's life when Faison needed him to. Not forever, maybe. Maybe just long enough to access something, manipulate someone, protect some secret, whatever Faison's final project really was. But then Cassius got too close, or too jealous, or too human. And that is where the whole thing could have gone sideways. Because here's what I keep thinking. Cassius may not just be a villain wearing Nathan's face. He may be a victim who got turned into a villain because nobody ever loved him right. And that does not excuse what he might do. Let me be clear. But it makes the story hurt more. And GH loves when the story hurts. Imagine this. Nathan is taken before the death we all thought we saw. Faison gets his hands on him, hides him away in some facility, maybe connected to WSB, maybe connected to Sidwell, maybe some underground lab with fake medical records and old DVX style nonsense because, come on, this is Faison we're talking about. Meanwhile, Cassius is pushed into Nathan's world. He has the face. He has the DNA close enough to confuse people. Maybe because they are twins. Maybe because Faison has already tampered with records. And then, when the shooting happens, when Nathan dies, it is Cassius who actually takes the bullet. Now that would change everything. That would mean Maxie did not just lose Nathan. She was made to grieve the wrong man. That is brutal. That is soap opera cruel in a way that makes me want to yell at the TV and then still watch tomorrow. Because obviously I'm going to. And if that is where GH is heading, the proof cannot just be, oh, we ran DNA again. That would be too flat. The proof has to come from something small, something human, something nobody thought to check because everyone was too heartbroken back then. I could see Jocelyn or Spinelli digging through old files and finding one tiny medical inconsistency. Maybe Nathan had a healed fracture from police work. Maybe a rib, a wrist, something from a case Dante would remember. But the body from 7 years ago? No sign of it. Or maybe the opposite. The body had an old scar or chemical marker that matches Cassius, not Nathan. Some weird trace from Faison's experiments. Something that should not be there unless the man in that grave had been in Faison's hands before. And that's where I would lose it. Because then suddenly, this is not just a twin reveal. This becomes a murder cover-up, a kidnapping, a long-term identity theft. A father sacrificing one son to imprison the other. Faison killing Cassius instead of Nathan? That feels sick enough to be believable for him. Not because I want it to be true, but because Faison's whole history is about obsession and control. He does not love like a normal person. He owns. He collects. He punishes. So if Cassius failed him, or if Cassius started wanting Nathan's life for himself, I could absolutely imagine Faison deciding Cassius was disposable. And Nathan? Nathan would be the prize. The one Faison could not let poor Charles have. That part is important, because if Nathan has been alive all these years, there needs to be a reason Faison kept him alive. Not sentiment. I don't buy sentiment from Faison. Not clean sentiment anyway. I think Nathan would have to matter to the final project. Maybe Nathan's mind, his memories, his neurological responses, something in his biology. I know, it sounds wild, but this is GH. We've seen Wilder before breakfast. Maybe Cassius has some of Nathan's memories because they were pulled from Nathan. Maybe that is why Cassius can sometimes act close enough to fool people, but then miss the small stuff. And that, to me, is the creepiest part. Because what if Cassius is not only pretending to be Nathan? What if he has pieces of Nathan inside his head? Not full memories, not clean ones. Fragments, feelings, the smell of Maxie's perfume, a flash of James, a hallway at the PCPD, a word Nathan used to say. And Cassius, poor messed up Cassius, thinks maybe those feelings are his, or maybe he knows they are stolen and hates Nathan even more for having a life worth stealing. That is the kind of psychological soap mess I want. Not just a villain reveal. I want identity horror with heartbreak on top. And Maxie, oh my gosh. Maxie would be the emotional center of this whole thing, because she would have to deal with two impossible truths at once. First, the man in front of her may not be Nathan. Second, Nathan may not have died. And third, because GH always adds another knife, Cassius may have also been a son, a brother, a victim of Faison. So Maxie's anger would be valid. Her grief would be valid. Her confusion would be valid. She could hate Cassius for invading Nathan's memory and still feel sick when she realizes Faison used him too. I can already hear Maxie saying something like, "You don't get to wear his face and ask for my pity." And I would agree with her. But then later, if she finds out Cassius was raised by Faison, lied to, experimented on, maybe sent into Nathan's life like some kind of replacement part, that gets complicated. Real complicated. Messy in the best daytime way. Liesl would also have to be dragged right into the center of this, because no way this story works without her. I think Liesl could become the one person who suspected something but never had the full truth. Maybe she always had this weird feeling that there was another child. Maybe Faison told her one baby died. Maybe she believed him, because what else could she do? And now she is looking at Cassius and realizing this is not just a stranger. This might be her stolen son. That would wreck her. And if Liesl finds out that Faison killed Cassius while letting the world believe Nathan died, or worse, that Faison forced Cassius into Nathan's place and then discarded him, that could give Liesl one of those big, ugly, operatic GH breakdowns. The kind where she is furious at Faison, furious at herself, furious at everyone who missed the signs. And honestly, I would watch every second. Britt's role could be even murkier. I don't think she has to know everything. In fact, I prefer if she knows just enough to be dangerous and terrified. Maybe Britt knows Nathan could still be alive, but she also knows he may not be the Nathan everyone remembers. Maybe he has been conditioned. Maybe there is a trigger phrase. Maybe freeing him could set off something Faison built into him. That would explain why someone might hesitate. Not because they don't care, but because saving Nathan might also unleash Faison's last weapon. And listen, I know that sounds dramatic, but it is General Hospital. Dramatic is the address. The big investigation for me should start with Jocelyn. She's already in that lane where she wants answers, and she has that young, reckless energy where she will poke the bear even when everybody says, don't poke the bear. I could see her teaming with Spinelli, maybe dragging Dante into it when police records start looking wrong. Then they find a file that was altered, a morgue report, a scan, a chain of custody issue from the night Nathan died. Something small but nasty. And then comes the cliffhanger. An audio file. Static. Bad quality. Maybe recorded years ago. Maybe from a hidden facility. And a voice that sounds like Nathan says, tell Maxie, I didn't die that night. Come on. That would be insane. That would be the Friday cliffhanger. That would be the moment where I'm sitting there like, nope, nope. You cannot cut to credits right there. But they would. Of course they would. The other thing I would want is for Cassius to not fully know the truth either. That makes it better. Maybe he believes Nathan died. Maybe he believes he survived and Nathan didn't. Maybe Faison scrambled the truth so badly that even Cassius does not know whether he is the replacement, the survivor, the abandoned twin, or the mistake. And if Cassius starts realizing he was never the chosen son, never the loved son, never even the successful project, that could make him dangerous. Or it could make him break. This could mean Cassius has a redemption path, but not an easy one. No quick forgiveness. No, aw shucks, I was manipulated. Nah. Port Charles does not owe him a group hug. But if he becomes the person who helps find Nathan, or if he sacrifices something to expose Faison's last secret, then I could see the audience getting torn, and soaps live in that torn place. My prediction, if GH wanted to go maximum chaos, would be this. Cassius eventually proves the man who died was Cassius, but not because he wants to save Nathan at first. He does it because he wants to prove Faison used him. He wants the world to know he existed, that he was not just Nathan's shadow, that he was a son too. A messed up son, maybe a dangerous one, but not nothing. And that is where the title of the story hits hard for me. Nathan did not die. Cassius did. But Cassius also survived in a different way. Through the lie, through the face, through the damage Faison left behind. So no, I would not play this as a simple Nathan is alive happy ending story. I would make it painful. Nathan comes back, but he is changed. Maxie gets her miracle, but it comes with trauma. Liesel gets both sons back in some twisted way, but one may already be dead, and the other may not be whole. Cassius gets exposed, but maybe he also gets understood. And Faison, even dead, or gone, or whatever state he is in, still wins a little because his poison is everywhere. That is a story I think GH could tell. Not just a fake Nathan, not just a twin, but a 7-year lie where the grave belongs to Cassius, the prison belongs to Nathan, and the guilt belongs to Faison. And if that is even close to where this is going, Port Charles is not ready. I'm not ready either, but yeah, I'd be watching. Front row. Coffee in hand, yelling at everybody like it's my business.